Okay, Mr. Caldwell, the meeting is yours.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to the special board meeting, September 15th, 2020, the 6:15 meeting. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like all of us to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty
and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Caldwell,
Yeah, here.
Mr. Lilly's here, Mr. Roman,
Here.
Mr. Ruggles,
Here.
Andrea Voorhees,
Present.
Liz Smith,
here,
Mike Powell.
Here.
All present and accounted for. Looking for approval of the agenda.
I'll make a
Mr.
motion.
Clerk. Mr. Clerk, you had your hand up?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with a couple add-ons. 11F being an.
Well, that'll be under the special, the general meeting, not the special.
Okay, all
Okay.
right, I'll approve the agenda with the following items to approval of recess into closed session to consider attorney-client privileged communication in accordance with MCL 15268H.
Okay, we will get into that. We do first have to try, open up public comment real quickly. Is there any public comment out there?
There is one member of the public. If you would like to address the board, press *9 to raise your hand.
You will be able to comment at the regular meeting tonight too, if you want to.
We'll give it one moment. No one has raised their hand at this point.
Okay, I will close public comment. Okay, Mr. Lilly, you were saying you would like go into approved session, to close session, I'm sorry, make a motion?
That was the motion that I made, Rick. You want me to repeat it?
Yes, please. It was a little muffled.
Okay, approval to recess into closed session to consider attorney-client privileged communication in accordance with MCL 15268H. That is the first motion.
And it will also accompany item B, approval to recess into closed session to consider attorney-client privilege communication regarding collective bargaining in accordance with MCL 15.268C. We have motion, we have support. Roll call vote, please.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yeah.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly, yes, Mr. Caldwell.
Yes,
We have 7 yes.
thank you. At this time, Rob, you'll switch us into closed session.
Okay. I am sending you into the breakout room called closed session right now.
So we hit join, correct?
Yes.
Hey, Terry, just a word of advice. When you're speaking, you're going to have to lean forward because we lost your audio when you lean back.
He's relaxing on the beach.
Yes.
Okay, we've got about 1 minute before we start the normal 7 o'clock meeting. We are still live on YouTube. Does anybody know who Kay Mahalik is? We have that person trying to get in as a video participant. Does that name sound familiar to anyone?
One of our employees. What's Kristen's last name? Kristen in assessing?
I know the recording secretary, Jenny Edens, is having trouble getting in. Could that be her?
I am not sure.
I think, Rick, isn't Kristen?
No, I just pulled the liquor license application. It's MYDINI Enterprises. Could that be it?
It just says Kay Mahalik. I'll let them in and see who it is.
That doesn't ring a bell.
It'd get exciting.
You need to get a life if that gets exciting, Sean.
I might need to get a life either way, Mike.
Yeah.
I was complimenting you and I was on mute.
Me?
Hello, Kay Mahalik.
This is for all the Spartans on the call.
Go green.
Go white.
Go green.
Did the presidents vote today to open the Big Ten?
I didn't pay attention.
Oh. Rose.
What was that, Liz?
Mike froze. What did you say?
I just wondered whether or not the presidents voted to have football this year in the Big Ten today.
I don't think so. No Big Ten, but NFL.
It's kind of hard to do when the schools are
I
quarantined.
haven't seen anything yet.
Well, it's past 7 o'clock. I'm not able to verify who Kay Mahalik is, so I've put them back in the waiting room. There's a Judge Mattis. Is Jeffrey Mattis on the agenda, or shall I let him in?
Is that the recording secretary's computer, perhaps? Does
Yeah.
she work for the judge?
Let's
Oh.
see.
Because in the past, I think that name has tried to get in, and I wonder if it's her.
I think it's her.
I don't know what judge she works for right now. I guess it could be Mattis.
I mean, we'll see in a second.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
looks like it's her.
Yeah, it's her. Jeffrey Maris.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It
Mr.
won't let me
Caldwell?
log in as my personal account for some reason.
Okay. Mr. Caldwell, the meeting is yours.
Thank you.
Wait,
Good evening.
Rob,
Yeah.
can you change your name? I don't know that it's appropriate to have.
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa.
Sorry, Rick.
No problem. Are we ready? Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to call tonight's regular board meeting of September 15th, 2020 to order. This is an electronic meeting and we are in compliance with the executive order. So if you, at any time when the public comment comes up, I believe the way the public can activate the raise your hand is the *9, I believe. Correct, Rob?
Yes.
Okay. So when we get to public comment, that would be if you have anything that you'd like to add at that time. Anything on the agenda can be addressed at that time, since we are in a video meeting. This time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance again. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Harry, you're muted.
On an
Okay,
island.
that's better.
That'll work.
Mr. Colwell,
Here.
Lily says yes. Mr. Roman,
Here.
Scott Ruggles,
Here.
Andrea Voorhees,
Present.
Liz Smith,
here.
Mike Powell.
Here.
I'm going to look to move to approve the agenda with 3 additional items. Item F is the HR position that I would like to just create this evening. Item G, which is a FOG agreement, which we will discuss. And item H, which is a proposed tanker sale that was before us at the last meeting for the potential sale of some used tankers that we have. I will make that in the form of a motion. Looking for support.
Andrea will support.
I have motion, I have support. Roll call vote, please, Mr. Lilly.
Mr. Colwell,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yeah.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Powell.
Yes.
Oh, Terry, you're breaking up.
Powell.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item, item 5 is public comment. Again, anyone out there in the waiting room, you would hit *9 and that would let you in for public comment at this time. Please state your name and your address for the recorder if you are out there. Rob?
Let's see if anybody raises their hand. We have one member of the public in the room. *9 to raise your hand if you want to address the board.
Having problems with the video?
No one has raised their hand at this point.
Okay, we will close the public comment and move on to item 6, consent agenda. Mr. Clerk,
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion to approve. Looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Scott Ruggles. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Colwell.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 7, we'll do the minutes A and B. A, the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of August 18th, 2020, and B, at the approval of the minutes of the special board meeting of August 25th, 2020. Any comments from board members at this time? Mr. Powell?
Just one typo that I found on the bottom of page 7 of the August 18th minutes. Very last line starts with $50,000 to $100,000. And I believe it's not just an S, that should probably be an SO. So for the new tanker, it would be between 350 and 500,000.
Sounds appropriate. Thank you. Any other questions or comment on the minutes? Mr. Roman?
I'd like to make a motion to approve both sets of minutes as amended by Mr. Powell.
I have a motion. Looking for support. A support from Mr. Powell. Roll call vote, please.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mike Roman,
Yes.
Terry Lilly votes yes. Mr. Colwell.
Yes. Okay, next is we have proclamations this month. We have a few things that we need to recognize because these are things that hopefully we need to be aware of as a community, as community leaders and as residents. And it's National Recovery Month. September 2020 is and there is substance abuse is extremely important subject matter. It's important for the individual well-being and vitality, as well as for families, communities, and businesses. According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration in 2018, an estimated 20.3 million people aged 12 or older had substance abuse disorders. We continue to educate and raise awareness of the risk and potential harm associated with prescription drug misuse. And we believe everyone facing substance and use disorders deserve the benefit of recovery. Stigma and stereotypes associated with substance and use disorders often keeps people from seeking treatment that can improve their quality of life. And substance use disorders occur when recurrent use of alcohol and or drug causes clinically or functionally significant impairment, such as health problems, disability, and failure to meet major responsibilities at work, school, and home. And substance use disorder recovery benefits individuals to substance and disorders by focusing on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society, and also enrich the culture of our community. And now, therefore, be it resolved that White Lake Township hereby recognizes September 2020 as National Recovery Month. White Lake calls upon our citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our state in increasing awareness and understanding of substance use and the need for appropriate and accessible services to promote recovery. And that would be the Township's Board proclamation.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
I noticed in the next proclamation, you've done this. In this one here, as part of a reading like this, if in the future you could provide a number for people to call, if in fact they do know somebody, family or themselves or whatever, that would be helpful.
That is absolutely correct. And I apologize for not having that. We did discuss that. Yes, Liz.
Our police department also has a program. I believe they're called Angels, and they will mentor people. So our own White Lake Township Police Department can be contacted for that.
And they're also part of the CUFS program, they call it. I can't remember the full name of that, and it escapes me at the moment. So we do have several different avenues for people to seek help through the township, and we want people to know that. So that's why we're out there. So that's all it takes, a phone call. Next item is very, very important. It's National Suicide Prevention Month, also September 2020. September is known as National Suicide Prevention Month. It is indeed to help raise awareness surrounding suicide prevention resources in our community. Worldwide Suicide Prevention Day is observed each year on September 10th, and suicides thoughts can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background. And according to the CDC, each year more than 48,000 people die by suicide. And unfortunately, we have had young residents and old in our township over the years do that. And it is very, very disheartening for people, for that to happen, and people not to think that there are people out there that care and that can help them. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for people 10 to 34 years of age, the fourth leading cause amongst people 35 to 54 years of age, and the eighth leading cause amongst people 55 to 64 years of age. Organizations like the National Mental Illness NAMI and National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 800-237-TALK, T-A-L-K. Again, 800-237-TALK, work to help individuals in crisis, provide resources, shed light on this highly stigmatized topic. And every member of the community should understand that throughout life struggles, we all need the occasional reminder that we're all silently fighting our own battles. And Oakland County Health Network is committed to being a zero suicide organization and cultivate a network of providers who are engaged in a zero suicide philosophy. Now, therefore, be it resolved that White Lake Township be recognized as September 2020 as National Suicide Prevention Month. White Lake calls upon our citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our state to increasing awareness and understanding of suicide prevention and a need for appropriate and accessible services to assist individuals in crisis. And again, 1-800-273-TALK. Third proclamation an item that seems to be under attack in this country. Proclamation for Constitution Week, okay? And September 17th through the 23rd, 2020. Whereas September 17th, 2020 marks the 233rd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, let it be known that White Lake Township hereby proclaims the week of September 17th through 23rd Constitution Week, and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Amen.
Amen. That's right.
Yeah, the next item is a public hearing. We are here to have a public hearing regarding a hearing to confirm the role for the emergency sewer connection 2020/2021 Special Assessment District. And with that, I would like to open at this time the public hearing for comment on this particular sewer connection, I can't get that out, sewer connections Special Assessment District. I make that in the form of a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I support from Mr. Roman. Roll call vote, please, to open public hearing.
Ruggles?
Yeah.
Mike Powell?
Yes.
Liz Smith?
Yes,
Andrea Voorhees?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Colwell?
Yes. We are now in public hearing. At this time, if anyone has comment or question on the hearing to confirm the role for the emergency sewer connection 2020/2021 Special Assessment District, may speak. Hit *9.
Let's see if we have anybody raise their hand. No one's raised their hand yet. We'll give it another moment. No one has raised their hand.
I will make a motion to close the public hearing to confirm the role for the emergency sewer connection 2020/21 Special Assessment District. Making that motion, looking for support.
Support.
I support from Mr. Roman. Roll call vote, Mr. Lilly.
Mr. Colwell?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Scott Ruggles?
Yes.
Mike Powell?
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees?
Yes.
Liz Smith?
yes,
Thank you. Item 10A. Now we have the resolution number 20-032 to confirm the special assessment role for the Special Assessment District designated emergency sewer connections 2020/21. Anyone care to make a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Powell.
Mr. Supervisor, I move the resolution number 2020-01 for the Special Assessment District designated the emergency sewer connections.
We have a motion, looking for support.
We will support that.
Just a clarification,
No.
if I may.
Please.
Mike, the resolution number is 20-032.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I read the wrong thing. And this is to confirm the special assessment role resolution 20-032. Thank you, Ms. Amami.
Thank you, Lisa. You just earned your keep. Okay. And moving forward, we have a motion, we have support. Roll call vote, please.
Who
Mr. Lilly
supported,
votes
Rick?
yes.
I beg your pardon?
Who supported?
Mike Roman.
Oh, I will support the amended motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Lisa. Mr.
Mr.
Lilly.
Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Scott Ruggles?
Yes.
Mike Powell?
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees?
Yes.
Liz Smith?
yes,
Mr. Colwell?
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Next item is resolution 20-031 to approve capital improvement plan for 2021 through 2026, which is our wish list. And I'm going to talk to Mr. Sean O'Neill. Sean, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Now, I have a
Fantastic.
question.
Yes.
I had some earlier conversation today, and I'm sure you're going to give us a good reason. And we were wondering why it is that we do a 5-year plan every year and why we don't do a 5-year plan every 2 years or every 3 years. What's the story behind that, Sean?
If you let me read you, I'll tell you. And if you're
Okay.
still awake at the end, then maybe you'll make a motion. But it's actually a 6-year plan. This is going to include the years 2021 through 2026. And White Lake Township is required to prepare and update annually the capital improvements plan, thanks to the Michigan Planning Enabling Act of 2008. And, this is basically a report that identifies all the improvements that are needed or planned for the community. It's a 6-year schedule of public physical improvements, which identify, again, the need for major public infrastructure improvements, the sources of funding to make those improvements as well. It also provides a schedule of expenditures for constructing, maintaining, upgrading, and or replacing community's physical inventory. The CIP is a long-term capital project requirement tool, I guess. This is for all departments, and the threshold for our projects is $50,000 in White Lake. So, for example, construction of a new township hall or the purchase of a new fire truck would be a project. Purchasing office furniture or a laptop computer would not be a project. But basically, we're required by law because we own and operate municipal water and sewer systems, which causes us to have to participate in this. There aren't CIP police that come out and put cuffs on any of us, but when we seek grant funding, for example, when we purchased the park, we sought a grant, and not only do we need a master plan for recreation, but that project was shown in our capital improvements plan as well. So all those things really feed into that approval process. So if we don't have them, that's kind of a mark against us. If we do have them, then that's just showing responsible planning and budgeting. And so this tool is your way of collecting all the department's needs and producing them for the public to review and inspect every year, so they kind of know what we're working on. And again, for all of us at the department level, it's our way of kind of figuring out where our projects may coincide with or overlap with another department's projects. So we can, for example, put a water main down a road that might also need a pathway. So rather than putting a pathway in 1 year and then tearing it all up to put a water main in the second year, we try to coordinate projects like that, not only to save on restoration costs, but possibly, acquiring easements and, mobilization costs if contractors can do the same or similar work. So I can probably go on. I don't know how long you guys want to hear from me, but if that answers your question.
I think you got your point across, but Sean,
all right. Well, you started this, not me.
I knew most of that, but it's good to hear it from you, and it's just kind of a refresher for everyone, and then the public out there that will watch this to understand why we go through these exercises.
Yes, and so you mentioned it initially, Rick, and I think it's important. This is a wish list. This is not a budget. We used to have a gentleman come to our meetings and say, "How are you going to pay for all this stuff?" And we said, "Well, we're really not budgeting for all this. We're just kind of laying these needs out so that the board knows at roughly budget time what all the departments are kind of up against as far as needs and in some cases wishes." But this was in front of the Planning Commission for the required public hearing on September 3rd, at which time they unanimously approved the 2021 through 2026 CIP, which is now before you for your acceptance and adoption. And the resolution number, as was mentioned, is 20-031, and that's included for your convenience. And I also want to recognize Justin, who is here to talk about a project later on the agenda for all of his hard work. I did not think several weeks ago that we would be here tonight approving this, just because of kind of the way everything happened schedule wise with being shut down and kind of being behind. We started this probably 3 weeks late, and we still got it done, and it's in large part due to his efforts. So I want to publicly recognize Justin and all of his hard work on this and thank him for it.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Powell?
just wanted to point out that the township used to farm this work out to consultants. And since then, it's been brought in-house, and the in-house planning staff has done an excellent job each year, and quite frankly, saved the township a great deal of money. So I wanted to thank the planning staff.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That it's one of those duties that, again, you can hire out, but it doesn't make sense. And no one knows our needs better than we do and how to work through that process internally. So yes, and now it's been a number of years. So we have definitely reaped the financial benefits from that, and we'll continue to do so into the future. Any other questions from the board?
If I could just say one thing, I
Yes.
also want to thank all the department heads for their help as well, because this is something that half the departments end up being involved with and the other half kind of don't because of the different needs of each program area. So they're always, more than willing to roll their sleeves up and help us. So each and every one of them deserves some acknowledgement as well, because they've all participated in this process. So I want to thank them as well.
Very good. Any other further questions? Mr. Powell, you look like you want to make a motion.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Supervisor, I move approval of the resolution of the capital improvement plan for White Lake Township 21 through 2026, resolution number 20-031.
I have a motion looking for support. Mr. Ruggles supports. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrew Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Mr. Lowry votes yes. Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, new business, request to approve fire department reclassification. Well, we've had some conversation, and I would like to know if the board, in having this reclassification to create the position of deputy fire chief, has any further questions. Is Brandon still on the line, or is he gone? I think Brandon is gone. Okay. Is Kathy there? Yeah, there's Rich, and Rich is there. Okay. So are there any questions that we have related to this? We're, like I said, we're just trying to do some reorganizing here and plan for the future within the township. Any questions from the board? Mr. Powell?
And I apologize because I think this was answered, but I don't remember whether or not this specific position, the deputy chief / fire marshal, is this a union position or not?
I believe at that point, I'm going to defer to the chief to answer that question.
Kathy's online.
Yes, still in the union.
Still in the union. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I find my notes here. Okay. All right, Mike, that answers that question?
Yes.
Okay, anything else?
I suppose just one question. So if we're going to be into negotiations and we were looking that possibly the deputy chief would assist the chief in the negotiations, it's going to be a little bit tough for a union member to be in union negotiations with the chief. And so I'm not sure how that might work this fall.
No, I'm going to say I cannot answer that question for you. Okay, but I do not have any fears of anything being in that. There is no doubt in my mind that the majority of our firemen are very much in support of the township. And with my years of working with John through the building department, planning department, and his position as a fire marshal, I could not even begin to think that he would not have the best interest of the township as a whole in mind. And I have that comfort level.
Maybe Ms. Rocher had something to say.
Kathy?
It would be more about observing the process, the process of the negotiations, what's done behind the scenes, and some input. I don't know that he would actually sit at the table. That's something that Rich and Brandon might want to discuss further.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Rich, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, well, with that, I am looking to request to approve the fire department reclassification as described tonight, referring to the position shift from fire marshal to deputy chief. Liz
Got a
Smith,
motion? I'll support that motion.
okay,
I'm making
Liz?
that motion for him to support.
okay. I have support from both Roman and Smith. That being said, I will look for a roll call vote.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mr. Roman.
Yes.
Rowley votes yes, Mr. Colwell.
Yes. Thank you, board members. The next item is kind of exciting. Something that all of us kind of worked at and kind of came to us. And I think we're all kind of looking really forward to doing this. And Justin and Sean, I really appreciate everything you're doing. It's a Stanley Park Master Plan consultant selection. So Sean, I'm going to turn it over to you first and you can go from there.
You're muted, Sean.
Okay, sorry. I am not going to talk real long other than to say that, this has been a process that we had been kind of planning on undertaking, and Justin really spearheaded this. We put the RFQ out to, I think, 5 firms, and then there were some kind of paper interviews. We kind of reviewed on paper everybody's qualifications. There were 4 that were invited to interview, and we spent some time, I think, what was it, Justin, 4 hours with Andrea?
4 hours.
Also 4 hours interviewing firms a couple of weeks ago. And, Justin, I'll let you kind of take it from there if you'd like. It's your memo, and I'll let you go from here if you're ready.
Sure. So the Parks Committee has been very active this summer in preparing to get to this point. Like Sean said, we had an RFQ advertised for 4 weeks. The Parks Committee reviewed the responses. There were 5, and they selected to interview 4 of those 5 firms, which they did at a special meeting in August. They had another special meeting September 1st to vote on their preferred consultants. So we had Johnson Hill, Beckett and Rader, McKenna, and Giffords Webster were the 4 that we interviewed. The top 2 were Beckett and Rader and Giffords Webster. Of the top 2, the Parks Committee was unanimous in their support of Beckett and Rader for their robust scope of services, public engagement, their design concepts. They're going to provide up to 3 design alternatives, so we can kind of pick and choose what works best for us. And Andrea, chime in if I'm missing anything, but
You're doing that.
that's where they shook out. Your staff memo that's in the packet lists the prices for the services. And I should back up for a second that after the master plan portion of the project, the consultant will assist staff in preparing a grant application for development funds for the park. So there were 2 pieces of this. 1, can the firm prepare the master plan? And 2, are they experienced in acquiring those grants, which is what we're really needing to get the park project rolling. So Beckett and Rader is more than qualified to do that. Their initial proposal was $20,000 for master planning services and $4,500 for the grant preparation. Staff negotiated a $1,500 reduction in the grant application fees to get it down to $3,000. So total for the project would be $23,000. They weren't the lowest bidder. They weren't the highest bidder, but they were the consultant that is most qualified to do this project successfully. They did the Bloomer Park design and grant administration. They did the Hidden Pines Park master plan. So There is money in the Parks and Recreation Fund to pay for this, and we're recommending that you take action tonight so we can move forward with the master plan. That'll take a few months to get done, and then we'll be in line to meet the April 1st, 2021 state grant application deadline. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that. Any questions from the board? Andrea?
I just want to talk from my Parks and Recs perspective. Thank you, Justin and Sean, for your support in getting this done in a timely manner. But I just want to comment a little bit on Justin's comments. Yes, we are all unanimous with our sitting through this 4-hour meeting with quick breaks between each one. To me, Beckett Raider stood out because they totally showed the most enthusiasm in coming out to the park. One of the questions that we all managed to ask was, did you come out to the park? They had a ton of pictures. A couple places like, yeah, we just happened to be driving by was one of the responses. So you could just tell they were embracing Beckett Raider. Beckett Raider, sorry, Beckett Raider was embracing White Lake Township in the new park. So yeah, that's, to me, we made it the best decision for White Lake Township. Thank you.
Any questions from the board members? Liz Smith? Liz?
I think Scott has his hand up first. You can go.
Oh, thanks. I'd just like to say that I agree with the recommendation from Parks and Rec. I think they've done their homework, and I agree with Andrea's comments. So I support Beckett and Raider.
Rick,
Very
can
good.
you hear me at all?
Whoop.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had a beautiful beach on my picture out in the New Orleans problem over there, the hurricane. So I got a black screen. I'm not going to mess with it because I'll lose you entirely. So I'm hanging in there for you.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Terry. You're having technical problems. Hang in there. So Liz Smith.
So, okay, can you hear me? I'm going to be the one that steps outside the box on this. I am very appreciative of the work that the Parks and Rec Committee did in research and sitting through long presentations and really giving this a lot of thought. Thank you. I have a couple questions. What happens in the process if we choose not to go with this company at the moment? That's my first question.
Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we don't get started with the master plan in the next few weeks, we're going to potentially miss the April 1st state grant deadline. So it's going to take a few months to get the master plan done. So if we get started in October, we may finish the master plan by the end of January, and that would give, only about a month, maybe 2, to get the grant application prepared.
That's correct. So we want to get this thing going. If the goal of the township is still to make that application by April 1, then we do need to get started here in the next couple of weeks. And there is as Justin mentioned, a pretty robust public involvement portion of this, because this is such a critical park in such a critical location that we want there to be lots of public involvement. And there was a lot of talk about how we would do this, because I could see big Zoom meetings. They were talking about doing some electronic voting on something. There were a whole bunch of different ideas that we were exploring. We were talking about having a kickoff meeting in the park so we can invite the public down there in October before the weather's too nasty. And so, I mean, if the goal of the board is to move ahead and make that first application in April, then we will need to start sooner rather than later.
Okay, I'm curious. I was curious of the time frame because I'm extremely interested in public involvement, and so I just want to understand the time frame, because I too share in that same sentiment that I want as much public involvement and idea sharing as possible. I am not, and I'm just speaking for myself, I'm not looking for like a minimalist park on this property. I'm really interested in a unique hub that draws people to White Lake, that is an extremely user-friendly family recreation area for this. So I really want to make sure that were different and unique. And some of the, no offense, but some of the references given in this are not, in my opinion, considered unique enough parks for what I'm looking for this particular area. So I want to move forward. I don't want to, stop that process because I do want to catch that April deadline. But how much, so moving forward, Sean, in the process, how much say will the public and this board, be able to have for April? Because I'm concerned that we have an incredible opportunity to design this park from scratch and it be like anything that we've never seen before around here. And I want to take full advantage of that. And I'm just concerned that we will end up with something less than what our residents deserve. They deserve to have a really unique, family-friendly recreation area with all of their, wishes and desires that we're possibly able to accommodate.
So I guess, we are going to, if you were to move ahead tonight, we have a kickoff meeting scheduled just at the staff level next week with Beckett and Rader to talk really about the timeline. So these are the kinds of things we want to go over and really nail down. And we'll be able to do that, excuse me, and be able to share that with the board. I think the only way to do this right is to get, the maximum amount of involvement from the public. And that includes the board, it includes the Parks and Rec Committee, includes the neighbors out there, it includes people who live at the opposite end of the township. But we want all of our residents to have an opportunity to provide input. And so that is at the top of our list. That's at the top of the list of priorities for the Parks Committee as well. And so we've made that clear to Beckett and Rader.
Okay.
And I think that one of the things, and Justin mentioned it, and it was really the one thing that stood out in our discussions, or I should say the committee's discussions about these consultants, was the fact that they are willing to, they're just offering as a part of their package to design 3 different alternatives for us. So I think it gives us an opportunity to do something really safe, maybe something completely outside the box, and kind of something maybe somewhere in the middle. So we have the ability to try a few different things through this process, I think. And while we've got to keep it moving forward, I think that really challenging them and challenging the committee to work with them and the public to really come up with some things that are outside the box is going to be pretty exciting, and should be, again, another goal of this process is to come up with some unique things. Maybe it'll end up being a blend of a couple different projects, or I should say a couple different plans that end up being out there. I don't think any of us knows how this is going to end up, but I do think that we want to make it perfect. Everybody in this screen's got to be comfortable with where it's at, and hearing positive things back from the public before I think we move ahead with a concrete plan, because this is our one shot to do it, just like the Civic Center. We have to do it right. So
I guess that's my biggest concern, is I want to make sure that every step we're taking is we get one shot at this, and this is a huge step for White Lake's future. I want the public involved as much as possible. This board needs to be driving the ideas, and we're elected to represent the public's wishes. And I just don't want it to be, forgive me, but I don't want it to be boring and plain. I want it to be exciting and to have it. There's other areas in the country and state that have really unique, interesting parks, and I want that for our residents. So I just want to make sure that we are really choosing a company that's willing to partner with us to look outside the box and really explore and take into consideration what our residents want.
absolutely.
Can I
Mr. Ruggles.
I would say, Liz, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we see it and we don't like it, and then we don't act on it, right? We've hired a lot of consultants for the township, for the fish farm, for whatever, and we take into consideration, and maybe we think on it and go in a different direction. So I don't know. I would say at this time, I feel most comfortable with this firm, but I would never be locked into whatever they show us either.
If I could just add one thing, and this is obviously a very different park than Bloomer Park, and we have some different goals maybe here than we had with Bloomer Park, but there are some similarities, even though this piece of property is, more than twice the size of Bloomer, but it's a lakefront property. It's a property that had a lot of, high quality features and unique features. And, that's the one project that we've built through trust fund grants that, and actually this consultant designed it. And I think that we've heard such great reviews back from Bloomer. And I think that was one of the things that stuck out too, is that their track record is what it is around, Southeast Michigan or around the state or the region, but their track record with us is a really good one. And, Bloomer was exactly what the committee and the township wanted when I think it's been 7 or 8 years now, when that, project plan came through and we went through that process. So that kind of gave us the group some comfort that, their track record with us is an excellent one. And I would expect the same here.
Okay, Mr. Roman.
Thanks, Rick. First, I wanted to thank Andrea for your comments because the last thing I want to do is to hire a consultant that doesn't have enthusiasm. A critical piece. So thanks for throwing that in. I just want to kind of give my scope or my opinion. I kind of disagree respectfully with Liz. I was hoping we would have a park, kind of more of an open space, relaxing, very rural, with a whole lot of walkability, a lot of nature. But I guess that's why we want to get the public opinion, to hopefully build what the public wants. So thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you.
So I do agree with you on that, Mr. Roman. We have plenty of space to do that, to do both.
Okay, Mike, did you have your hand up? Yes, Michael.
Yes, thank you. And certainly we can agree with both Rick and Liz. Mike and Liz, I remind Mike that we have a tremendous amount of parkland in White Lake Township in the Pontiac State and the Highland Rec, where you can go out and get lost in those woods. Anytime you feel like getting to nature, I've got a horse you can get on and you can go out and just lose yourself in the nature there. I certainly support Liz in that this would be really nice for people to actually want to come and visit. They get in their car and come or walk specifically there to accomplish something. And so it's going to be very interesting. That's a personal statement. The more professional statement is, I know these companies and all of them are first-rate companies. I think we'd be short-sighted to go with low bidder. Certainly, we don't got high bidder. And I'm very, very impressed with the park committee that Beckett and Rader is known nationwide for their creativity and their excitement in parks. And so I'm very pleased with that choice.
Thank
Very
you, Mike.
good. Yeah. Yes, just I think it's the natural progression, when we were all very lucky enough to, and it all started from going to a SEMCOG meeting. Once that first domino fell and it all kind of came together and we were lucky enough to get to where we're at with all this. One of the things that Sean and myself and Jason at the time, sorry, Justin, scrambled like crazy to put that grant together in that short window of time. And it was just that. And then we were on pins and needles, as you all know, for some period of time till it all came together. So that's history, but let's make history. And I agree with Liz. We need to do something, super special. This is something that's on my mind first and foremost. Now, I will tell you that I have reached out to a couple different board members because I'm having them on the committee. I reached out to one and heard from one. I have not heard back from the other yet. So I'm hoping to hear from those members. My office has tried to contact them and just life gets in the way sometimes. So we'll find out, because I would like to have 2 of the township board members on that committee, and I've already made the selection. So check your email, everybody, and check your voice messages and see what's there. And we'll kind of go from there. And they'll be part of what we're going to be doing to move forward, so that way there's a direct connection from the township board right into a direct line into the process. Mr. O'Neill, do you have anything else? Justin, anything else you want to add to this?
No, I think you covered it. There is a motion for consideration in your staff report.
Would anyone like to make a motion to move forward? Mr. Powell,
Mr. Roman raised his hand.
Mr. Roman,
I would be more than glad to give Mr. Powell the opportunity for the motion.
All right, I move to authorize the township supervisor to engage Beckett and Rader to complete master planning and grant preparation services for Stanley Park with a cost not to exceed $23,000 to be paid from the professional services line item in the Parks and Recreation Fund, which contains $35,000 in the 2020 budget.
I have a motion looking for support.
Andrea will support that.
I have support from Andrew Voorhees. Roll call vote, please. Mr. Lilly,
Scott Ruggles.
Yeah.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Colwell.
yes.
Of 7 yes.
Motion
Thank you.
carries. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hey,
Thank you,
Rick,
Joe.
Rick, quick
Thanks for-
question.
Go right ahead.
Quick question, Sean and Justin, with the shortage of funds that we're seeing in the state because of COVID and the reduction that they're seeing in sales tax revenue and all that, have you guys gotten a feel at all for the availability still of this grant money? Have you heard anything?
The money that comes into this fund comes from natural gas and oil leases. So hundreds of millions of dollars in this fund, and it keeps rolling. So I have not heard that they're planning on scaling back. As a matter of fact, before this all hit, they were actually thinking about unleashing some of the development grants and not capping them as low as they do. So I don't know that was ever decided, but that was some of the discussion. So I think the supervisor had his hand up. He may know more than I do on that, but.
Yes, there was some conversation with some individuals that I know, and the monies at this point in time have not, for the trust fund do not look like they're going to be affected. That revenue stream has really actually not quelled, and there is, like I said, there are literally hundreds of millions of dollars there. So we, as Sean, myself, and Jason were at the actual event that we were awarded the grant, saw how it operates, and it's rather interesting. That's all I can tell you. But when they decide to give the money away, they give it away in large blocks, and they do look at projects, and they do like to see the communities physically sitting in the room at the time. That way, we saw one group that was on the fence, and nobody showed up for over $1 million grant. I was dumbfounded. This was a Lake Michigan lakefront project, and in a prominent East Coast community, or West Coast Michigan community rather, and they didn't show up. They moved right over them. So I think it's important that we're there when the time comes, and I think we need to tap all the different resources that we have. So I appreciate everyone's level of commitment. Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next item, or anybody else have anything to say about it yet?
no, I just want to thank Jason and Justin and Andrea and the park committee. I know this was a long process and you put a lot of thought into it. So thank you for bringing this to our board.
Yes, thanks, crew.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next item is a request to, item 11C, request to waive application fee, Waterford Chamber of Commerce. I received a letter from Marie Hosworth, who is the chamber, that there is a $25 application fee be waived due to the nature of the event, which was basically the Waterford Chamber of Commerce Business Association. That was a very small event. It actually went to the event committee, and events like this where Terry mentioned that we may take a look at what the event committee and how it operates and may revise it, because this was such a small event and a private event, it may not even needed necessarily this permit. But they were just looking to waive it because obviously it's the business association, and it's not a moneymaker, and they're just trying to promote business within the community. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Ruggles.
They're asking to have their application fee waived for an event that they've already held.
Yeah, we could refund it back. I'm not sure if Mr. Lilly's holding on to the check or if it's been cashed. I don't know.
It was on the 11th, so they must have paid it, right?
They did pay it, I believe. Mr. Lilly, did they?
We haven't received the funds yet, Rick.
Oh,
How
you
could
have.
they have a permit then?
That's a good question, but they were applied, they went to the committee and the committee did approve it. And there wasn't a non-issue there with that, so.
That seems surprising.
Anybody else?
Seems surprising that they would ask for the forgiveness of $25. So.
Yeah. Nonprofit.
Yep.
Any of the board members have any other comments or questions? Hi, Lisa, you're looking chiming in there, so.
Yeah, okay. Do we typically do this for White Lake Township businesses?
Well, if they come and they ask if there's a business association and they're gonna have it on a private island and it's a private event, I don't know. We'd have to take that into consideration. I can't answer that yes or no. Would have to go in front of the board.
Mhm.
Rick,
Terry, do you have anything to add?
yeah, Rick, I want to make sure that everyone knows that when we met as a committee, I certainly made recommendations for in the future for these considerations. But even though this is a small event on a private island and kind of a private meeting, it was nice to know that everybody was upfront, that all of our staff and departments of White Lake have been informed of what's going on. Nobody ever had a problem with anything, what's going on. So I just want the board to know that I did leave some recommendations for the board to reconsider this ordinance at a later date.
Thank you, Terry. We will follow up on that.
Rick, if I can
Please.
just make a comment, I know
Yes, Lisa.
you gave me some credit earlier and I know you're going to take it away now, but I just, I can't not say it. We charge fees for our costs. So if you need to reevaluate the cost of granting these permits or whether you should require fees at all, I think that the township board ought to consider that as opposed to handling it the way it's been handled in the past.
I agree. It's time to revisit that particular item. So we'll put that on your list to do, Lisa. More job security there, so. Mr. Roman.
I'd like to motion to waive the $25 application fee for the Waterford Chamber of Commerce for their fundraiser.
I have a motion, looking for support.
Andrea will support that.
I have a motion, I have support. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yeah.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Kowal.
Yes. Okay, thank you. 11D, liquor license application. My Dini Enterprises LLC. Mr. Lilly, what can you tell us about the application?
Thanks, Rick. We received a liquor license application in for benefit of the board members. This is an application for the Old Ripples Restaurant on 59. I had a conversation with in regards to what was happening as far as the building and the property, whatever, and every indication is there's a number of things that the applicant needs to do before they're even thinking about getting a final certificate of occupancy. This is kind of a two-edged sword for a developer. Number one, they're making a huge investment. They've already bought the property. They're making a huge investment to try to meet all the needs of the township and not knowing whether they're going to get a liquor license. On the other hand, knowing that they're going to get a license and knowing that their investment is protected on their end seems to be reasonable at this point. So my recommendation to the board at this point is to approve the liquor license subject to the final certificate of occupancy and all the fees that are due the township and the consultants being paid in full.
Very good. Any questions from the board?
I'll support that motion for discussion because it sounded like was worded just right. I do have a question for Rick, maybe Terry. We are designing a downtown area, and it's going to be extremely critical that we have something to offer. How many licenses, Class C licenses, do we have left in the township?
I believe we have 4 or 5. Terry?
I think there's 5 or 6 that are
5 or 6. And we're up for the census, which is going to go up, and hopefully we'll pick up another license with that.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm totally aware of where you're going with this, Mike, and but I also don't want to, not give people an opportunity that are willing to come here.
Yes.
But seeing as there's been an investment made, and there's going to have to be more investment made in a complete cooperation and collaboration with the township before we would sign off on that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. Lisa, your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I know that the Liquor Control Commission would not even consider their application unless and until the township board approved the resolution on the MLCC form without any conditions. And I don't see the form in here as part of the resolution. I don't know if you have what in front of you that maybe wasn't in the packet, but the packet just has the application.
I do not have a copy of that.
We may have a copy in the file, Rick.
Okay.
And I just looked up the White Lake on-premises liquor licenses, and there are 4 available. This would make it 3.
Okay.
I do not have a copy of that particular document that you're referring to, Lisa, in my possession.
So it's the state form that authorizes White Lake authorizing the MLCC to consider an on-premise liquor license, a quota on-premise liquor license for the applicant. You can certainly, if the board is inclined, you can certainly authorize the supervisor. You can make a motion to pass the LC, I think it's 106. No, I don't know what the resolution number is, but the standard MLCC form approving it, or you could put the resolution on a future agenda.
Mr. Lloyd, what level of urgency did these folks give you when they came in?
Rick, we probably have a complete application with everything on it. The only thing that was provided to the board was the first part of the license. So the other part could be in the file in the office.
Okay. All right. Well, does anyone care to make a motion in reference to the MLCC form in the manner of which Lisa was recommending?
Well, Terry made the motion and I seconded it. So if you wanted to amend that to include that that resolution, that'd be good.
I beg your pardon. That would be correct. We would amend it to include the standard MLCC form. Mr. Lowley, do you agree with that?
I agree.
I support that agreement, that modification.
We have motion, we have support, we have modification, motion and support. Going to roll call vote.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles.
Yeah.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mike Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Item E, Terry, this is in your backyard, so to speak. Request to approve Huron Cemetery Maintenance Contract for Sexton Services, 2021 through 2023.
Supervisor, these Huron Cemetery Maintenance has had a contract with us since Mr. Brundle resigned as sexton. I got to say their service is excellent. Their response to our needs are excellent. Their prices, there's a small increase in a couple items, but overall that they're not very far off of what our current fee schedule is. And for the second and third year, I believe that there's no increases. So a small increase on a couple items, and other than that, like I say, I can't say enough for what they do. To have to respond to these type of burials on weekends and nights and whenever we can get a hold of them is it's awesome that we don't have to worry about graves not being properly prepared and burials and not going on without any problems. So I certainly is my recommendation to renew their contract.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Andrea?
Terry, how long do they have to clean up their mess? Last spring, if I remember correctly, the township was being bashed on social media because someone had wrecked a veteran's grave at the White Lake Cemetery. So I called one of my fellow trustees and we cleaned it up. And to me, all the evidence points to the township or the sexton wrecking this grave. Should we have called them first? Or shouldn't they be responsible for cleaning up their own mess?
Yeah, actually, Andrea, when we kind of looked into it, we think it was when the dumpster was rolled off and it was GFL that did that.
Okay.
I'd like to make a response to that, Rick. There's been a number of occasions that people have called Scott, had one recently, and calling Andrea or whoever they may call. Look, at these people know that they're responsible to the township clerk, and if I'm not notified and not aware of the issue, I can't take care of it for you. So this going around the mulberry bush doesn't work very good for complaints. They need to be, and believe me, they have taken care of stuff. So.
This was on Facebook, Terry, and honestly, looking forward, I will remember these words of wisdom and follow through it that way.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah, I have a comment. I think I brought this up last year when we raised our fee schedule to go and to accommodate the increases that we experienced from this company with the burial services. And I mentioned at that time that I don't like the idea of constantly raising the rates for our residents and increasing the cost of funerals and burials. And, there's increases in this extension, be it may that it's $50 and $25. I understand that it's not a huge amount, but the pass through is inevitable that we're going to adjust our fee schedule to pass it on to our residents. And that's becoming tiring for me. Maybe at some point in time we stop with that, and we're going to have if his rates continue to go up, then the township's going to have to eat it, or I don't like just continually hammering our residents because he wants a raise every year because he gets a renewal. And maybe we need to examine the idea of looking at other bids for this kind of a contract rather than just renewing it. I'm not saying that he doesn't do a good job. I think he does a fine job. I don't have any complaints with the service that we've received, like Terry said, but at some point in time, maybe we're going to have that conversation because me personally, I'm just, I don't like the raise here, fee schedule adjustment there, and it's what we do, and that's not what I want to do. So just for the board to think about for the future. So.
Thank you.
So I would be willing to support that same line of thought later on. I agree. That's not an area that we should be burdening our residents with. We can do better. So I would like to keep that in mind in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Anyone else at this time? I'd like to entertain a motion. Mr. Powell?
Certainly, Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the new contract for the sexton services with Huron Cemetery Maintenance as presented.
I'll support
I
it.
have motion, looking for support.
I'll support it.
I have support from Mr. Lilly. Roll call vote, please.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Mike Paul,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Colwell.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies.
Very good. Now moving on to item 11F, which is the creation of a HR position. I would like to remind the board that the township is growing, our staff is growing, our needs are changing. We're a victim of our own success. So we need to be able to take care of our employees to a level of which they are accustomed to. And with the internal change in the administration here in the office, this position needs to be filled, and therefore it needs to be created. Needs to be created so it can be filled. So any other questions, or anyone have any questions or comments at this time regarding the formation of the HR position?
Supervisor? Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lilly.
I'm sorry, Rick. I just want to make sure that everybody has the right job description. I know there was one that was in the packet earlier, and then there was one that was made up just recently. Want to make sure everybody has the right one.
Yeah, there were minor changes to it. Brandon had a couple grammatical things, and a few other things. I believe there was a couple little things that were in there, but that's the one that was emailed out, I believe, yesterday morning or the day before. Oh, excuse me, I beg your pardon. I believe yesterday morning was a revision. It's the one that I currently have. Any questions?
Rick, again, I'd just like to make a couple comments,
Please do.
if I could. I
Please,
just
sir.
on record to say that Mrs. Droscher is certainly a loyal professional and a very detailed individual. And I'm just happy that the board has seen fit to recognize her accomplishments, what she has done from the township, and be able to retain those services that will be sorely needed, in the future as we continue to expand. So I want to thank the board again for that.
Thank you, Mr. Lilly. Okay, looking for a motion. Do we have a motion on the floor?
I'll be happy to make that motion.
Please, sir.
Make a motion to approve the job description for the HR position.
support.
I have motion and support to approve the job description and position as noted, and I have support. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Liz Smith,
Yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Absolutely, yes.
Scott Ruggles.
Yeah.
Mr. Roman,
I will vote yes with a comment for the record. That comment being, I would like to see the salaries for the township deputy treasurer and deputy clerk positions be increased to top out at the same level as the HR position. These deputy positions have every bit of responsibility and workload as this HR position or any other position within the township?
That's still a yes, Mike?
That was a yes.
Okay.
Mr. Colwell,
Yes.
we have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Next item is item G, which is a FOG agreement. For those of you who you should have received it, it's a fats, oils, and grease agreement. Mr. Potter is unable to be here tonight, but Mr. Powell has agreed to kind of give us a little bit of an education from that standpoint and his thoughts on this particular agreement, not only for this particular or potential site, but other sites throughout the township.
So this is going to be one of the more interesting presentations for you guys tonight, I can tell. But throughout the township, and it's very critical, the township has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to deal with some of the fats, oils, and grease that gets accumulated in the sanitary sewers here in the township. And you can understand where that is. Grease is an extremely hot substance, and restaurants, due to the inability of the employees to really care, sometimes dump that grease down the sinks. That grease then follows the hot water down the drains, and it enters the cold piping and water in the sanitary sewers, where it solidifies and attaches to the walls around the sewer, and it sits there and plugs up the sewer system. Every community that owns sanitary sewers has a fat, oil, and grease ordinance that tries to prevent that. It was first started with a monitoring manhole that had to be placed outside any structure that was going to be creating any kind of food preparation at all. It's called a monitoring manhole, in which all it did is help the DPS track down where the fat, oil, and grease is coming from. That didn't really help a whole lot, because it still left the local community with the cost of removing all that grease from the sanitary sewers. So the Oakland County Health Department and those communities with sanitary sewers established an ordinance that required that a fairly large tank, typically 1,000-gallon tank, and most of you are probably on septic systems, so you know what a septic tank looks like, and that's really what it is. 1,000-gallon septic tank, where the water and grease flows into that tank, solidifies in that tank, and then the relatively clean water leaves and goes into the sanitary sewer. That in no way is being requested to change in this case, because full-time, full-service restaurants that do cooking, washing of lots of dishes, and developing grease still require that, even with what's being presented to you tonight. What's being asked tonight, however, is maybe a catch-all for existing facilities that maybe a pizza business, or a sandwich shop, a Tubby's, a Subway, or anything like that, a small grill that doesn't develop greases and oils. You can well imagine that a sandwich shop just puts cold sandwiches together, and they really don't develop much grease. And they're typically existing structures that don't have the ability to put these tanks in outside. Normally, these tanks go into a pipe that leaves the building, and it's a kind of a section of the pipe that goes between the building and the sewer. What's being asked tonight is a modification of the sanitary sewer ordinance in White Lake Township to recognize the fact that not all businesses that generate food have the same need of a very large tank, And it also recognizes the fact that we have a number of strip centers and existing buildings that have the need of maintaining a tenant in that space. And the cost of putting in a 1,000-gallon tank, besides the tearing up of parking lots and landscaping and the like, is really unwarranted. So what's before you tonight is to at least potentially agree to a change in that ordinance, allowing for the head of director GPS and the township engineer, not GPS, I'm sorry, DPS, to make a decision that a particular use doesn't have to comply with that 1,000-gallon tank outside the existing structure. So in reviewing this tonight and during the day, there's some tweaking that needs to happen in this. This particular ordinance modification does not specifically address existing structures. A tank that the ordinance currently requires is a $500 item. So if you're building a new facility and you have the yard all torn up and you have a pipe coming out of a building, before you tie into the sanitary sewer, for $500 they can put a proper tank in. So this is a catch-all for those changes in use and shops that are going to be added after the fact. There are some terminology issues that I have a concern with, and I did not have a part in writing this, but certainly I deal with this virtually daily. As you can well imagine, you can't let greases go into septic fields, and it causes a bigger problem with septic fields than it does with sanitary sewers. So I made some recommended changes and some terminology changes that I'm going to recommend to this, but I'm in full favor of this type modification with some specifics, and that's to specifically say that it is only for existing facilities. It's not for full service restaurants. Right now it says that it's for restaurants that do not have a great deal of grilling, but it really should also deal with washing of dishes, and it doesn't deal with washing of dishes and the like. So instead of going through this point by point by point, I'm recommending that if you're so considering it, that we ought to adopt something like this. Maybe the supervisor can tell you whether or not this is time sensitive, but I would certainly suggest that maybe with the supervisor, I and Aaron Potter sit down and make some modifications to it before it's finally added to our ordinance. And so I don't know whether or not, Mr. Supervisor, if you could tell us whether or not we should anticipate approving this tonight, or can we modify it and bring it back?
Well, Lisa wants to speak, but before Lisa speaks, I'm going to say that this particular agreement is an agreement that was developed for, in this case, a specific location, okay? However, upon looking at this agreement, the intention of this agreement could be applied, as you said, Mike, throughout potentially different locations of existing buildings throughout the township. That would be something that, as we go through, and as Lisa's been helping us and we've been working on our sewer amendment, that potentially we could look at that item in there and try to modify it and make it work so that it protects the township. I'm more than happy to sit down and with Lisa and yourself and go over anything that might need to be looked at for consideration. But this was to hopefully allow a new tenant to come into a building. It is a new building, but the building shell is existing and the parking, it's all there. So, and it was not anticipated initially for any kind of food service unit. So that's kind of in a nutshell. Go ahead, Lisa.
So I just, Mike, I just need to clarify a few things. first of all, I was approached to draft this contract for one particular instance. I did the best I could, working both with Mike Lufkin, Aaron Potter, and we received input from the county, some special guy who deals with fog. Now, that said, you made a couple statements about the ordinance and a modification and or variance. This is none of that. The ordinance specifically authorizes the engineer and DPW director, DPS director, on a case-by-case basis to evaluate when this should or should not be permitted. I mean, ideally, an outside tank is what I understand is ideal. And then in instances, you were comparing Subways and just a pure sandwich shop with, well, this particular use I understand has a fryer and I understand has a grill. So it is a little bit different than a Subway that doesn't do any grilling. I can tell you, I have had more discussions about this agreement than I ever want to have about fog again in my life. But I do believe, at least as it relates to Aaron and Mike Lufkin, that the intent was just for this instance. And the intent, as far as I know, is to amend the ordinance to include specific factors that the engineer and the DPS director will consider going forward as to whether or not they could or should allow the indoor standalone whatever
Grease
thing. Tank.
Yeah.
So that being said, there's absolutely no specification in here to give anybody a guideline as to what type of equipment, how it's to function. None of that's in this whatsoever. So they could do anything they want. There's no requirement for the owner to clean our sewers if in fact they do anything. So I see you're trying to say something, but it's, in my opinion, it's not ready to adopt unless can be modified.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate all the input. I don't do this for a living, but I beg to differ in that it does require compliance with the county standards and all of our ordinances. So the intent was that it would require all of the same things if it came in as a Subway that didn't require the outside.
But I went through all our ordinances and nowhere does it define in specificity the size, the method that it happens. And so there's no detailed specifications as to what we would accept.
And the wastewater standards that we relied on, that doesn't have them either.
It does have that, but that doesn't address what we're doing tonight.
It is in here though. We do require, in addition to compliance with the order, which, I mean, I don't know how you want to handle it, Rick. I know you're if you want to have more discussion about the terms of this agreement, I guess first would be to decide whether the rest of the township board is inclined to agree. And then the next step would be what to do going forward.
Yes.
Right. Well, we can put it out there for questions if everyone is not foggy on the subject. I think maybe you can figure it out. So, but I'm looking for input and response from the trustees. Mr. Ruggles.
I think Liz might have had her hand up first, but I can go if you like.
I'm sorry, Liz. I have you were not on this. You were not on my home screen. Go ahead, Liz.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Ruggles. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So I was raising my hand trying to put the brakes on because we were going down a path, because it is my understanding that it is for one specific area that is a new build, that is one cause that does not have a septic. So I was trying to pause there so that we were bringing it back into what we were talking about. So I do understand that there are no parameters specified in our ordinance. So Lisa, can you give us any direction if there's parameters in the county that we could then give authority to Mr. Potter and Supervisor Powell to have that as the boundary or a parameter
So I relied on Aaron and Mike, and they assured me that between, in paragraph 1 of the agreement, we require them to install, maintain, repair, and place in accordance with all state, county, and township codes, rules, and regulations, including engineering design standards. We also require in paragraph 2 that the grease, they perform all maintenance, repair, and replacement in accordance with the sewer ordinance. So our township sewer ordinance, including the wastewater disposal standards and regulations referenced in the sewer code. So I understood that this covered everything. If it didn't, then it, I guess, Mike, I don't know what else needs to be referenced, because it seems there's got to be some regulations out there that is applied to any other indoor grease control device that we could just reference in those paragraphs.
So if there's not, and the board feels comfortable moving forward, then could we then place those parameters now, or table it to have them prepared to be placed in next month's meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the design standards that when a restaurant comes in, typically they'll have an engineer that designs their system and will make recommendations as to what goes in. The language that I see here and that I'm reading here allows the township to, make sure there's adherence to those. It also allows the township to do periodic grease control inspections, section 38.513 of the sewer code. So I believe that, you're going to have a set of plans that's going to be submitted to the township, a plumbing set of plans that is going to have parameters and the necessary mechanical dynamics, so to speak, of a grease system that would be proposed, an under counter system, so to speak, that would be proposed. So I feel fairly comfortable using the language that's in here. What I definitely want to make sure is, though, is that the township, not only is this agreement and potentially, like Mr. Powell said, potentially something in our ordinance, but that's another story for another day, but potentially something in our ordinance has teeth, okay?
Right, so that's what I'm saying. Our ordinance needs to be fair all the way across the board. It can't be just for this one particular business new coming in.
Correct.
So that's why we need to set appropriate parameters.
Well,
for
that's what this
in the
does,
future.
Liz. That's what this does, Liz, in the sense that these folks have asked us that they felt that their business did not need to have that particular large capacity tank.
Right,
Now-
I understand, and
Let
I'm
me
aware of
explain.
what business is.
Yeah, but let me explain. So that they don't have the capacity, they don't want to tear up the site, and they don't want to lose a tenant. So the next best thing is, what is it that can be done? And even within our own ordinance, it does allow the lateral movement of the DPS director and the engineer to allow the systems that we're talking about. The thoughts behind this ordinance was to go along with our ordinance as it is currently written. However, if there's any maintenance issues that come up because they may not maintain that particular device properly inside their building, that the onus for cleaning the sewer and the cost of it falls on them, not the township. So that's the fairness part. This one is not being put upon anyone else. It's only being requested by an individual, but they now, the landlord, become responsible for making sure that those pipes are clean. And Mr. Powell, is that how you understand the thought process here?
That should be in there, and that wording is not in this ordinance.
Right.
That needs to be added, and then at least some minimum standards for these under counter sinks, because I'll tell you, I've seen these things done many times and the owners do not maintain them. And it'd be really nice to have at least some standards. So
Mike, can you
I
take a
agree.
look at paragraph 7? I'm wondering if you have an outdated version.
Yeah, because I agree with Lisa. I think you are holding them responsible for damages.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
yeah, but it holds them for damages for their system, but it doesn't state that it indemnify the township to clean the sewer. It just says that if there's a backup, then they don't hold us liable for it. It doesn't
No.
say that.
Paragraph 7.
I'm reading it. Yes.
Does it
Where
start-
where does it say that they will pay for the cost of cleaning the sewers?
Owner acknowledges and agrees to be responsible for the costs and expenses to clean the sewer main and or lead impacted by the accumulation of fats, oils, and grease, whether the accumulation is caused by a failure to properly maintain or any other action by owner, its tenants, leasee, occupant, or invitee. Do you
My
have
number seven does not say that. I'm sorry.
See, and that's
Neither
what I was
does mine.
afraid of.
Neither
Yeah.
does mine.
So whoever forwarded the agreement, forwarded it before, that was input actually we got from the county that I then added to this new paragraph 7.
I apologize.
Yeah,
Nope,
so do
nope,
I.
you were
I
given the
didn't
wrong
see it either.
version.
I
No,
didn't
thank
see
you
it
so
either.
much for bringing that up because my number 7 doesn't say that either. So thank you.
Mike, do you have any other issue? What were the other issues? Because we might have addressed those.
I had two other issues. Really, the definition of where you could even allow it. The paper, whether they wash dishes will be a huge issue that needs to be addressed, and the DPS should have that.
In
there
this,
as well.
in this agreement for this particular use?
Yes, because if they're using real plates, real silverware, real pots and pans, they're going to wash that, and that's going to produce a great deal more fog than a Subway would. The other issue that I had, and maybe it's in here, you're absolutely correct, is the minimum size of the tank that goes under. They sell tanks for $50 that you can put underneath a sink that meets all the requirements for about a day. And so,
Michael, just not to
Yep.
interrupt you, but just so you know, I do recall seeing something, and I think they were proposing either a 60 or a 70-gallon tank.
okay, now we're talking, but that's not
Yeah.
in here.
So,
And then the last issue is, if they don't let us in to clean it, because my portion or my version here says that they have to let us in. If they don't do it and they don't let us in, it doesn't give us really any teeth to say, all right, if you're not going to let us in to see this and it's not being done properly, we have the right to close you down. And it doesn't say that here.
so two things. The first thing you talked about was the size of the tank.
Yes.
Would Mr. Kowal's recommendation that, or I guess he didn't make the recommendation, but he indicated that a site plan or some sort of engineering plan will have to be presented for this?
Plumbing,
For
the
this-
plumbing mechanical plan.
Is that, if that's accurate, then maybe in here, we require the plan to be approved by the township.
And that would be fine, because obviously the larger the unit, the more it's going to catch, the less often it has to be maintained. So
Right.
all of that goes into it, right?
And then your second issue regarding remedies.
Yeah, there's no real teeth. If they don't maintain it and they don't let us in to maintain it, we have to have the ability to say, fine, you're shut down until it's cleaned.
So what we do say is that this agreement, the township, in its discretion, can terminate this agreement.
Yep.
And require the connection to the other system,
And how do you force them to do that?
court,
Oh, so now you have to go to court.
Or-
Shut
Why
them
do you
down.
want to do anything?
or you
Why do
withdraw the
do
C
anything?
of O. Because they now aren't, right? They're not in
If-
compliance
Not
You can
with,
do
compliant.
that.
It sounds like an enormous headache.
so maybe we add that in as one of the remedies, because keep in
That
mind,
would be good.
there's a catch-all remedy that says that nothing in here prohibits us from exercising any other ordinance or law for enforcement. So one thing that we talked about was the township's ability to get an administrative search warrant. So if they don't let us onto the property, we can go and get onto the property to do whatever inspection we need to do.
So we see that it's not being maintained, then what do you do?
Well, the way we've written this, we could repair it, bill them for the cost of the repair and any cleanup to any sewer.
And if you think that that's good enough, if they don't pay, then,
Then it goes on their tax bill.
okay.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that then, if that's the way.
And I have no problem adding, I mean, obviously, this is the first time I've drafted something like this. It was,
Yes.
And Lisa, you did an outstanding job.
Yes, there's no judgment here.
no, I know, I appreciate that, but I just mean I'm open to changes. I'm not
Yeah.
stuck on this, and I'm
Yeah.
sure
No,
Aaron
no.
and Mike aren't either. So whatever
I didn't get the impression that you were, and this is why we wanted to have this conversation, because we want to make sure that even though that we are interested in obviously having businesses come to the township and be here, we have to put the needs of the township system as number one, and to protect that system in whatever measure is necessary. So, and I
So
Go
what I'm
ahead.
hearing, I'm taking notes. What I'm hearing is that the two big things is putting a requirement in here that the township approve the plan and or design. And maybe Mike, we could talk about how to specifically word that.
Absolutely.
And then the other issue is to add as one of the remedies withdrawal of the C of O, which I guess I don't know that we absolutely need to, because I think any inconsistency with the ordinance, but we can add that in just to be safe. And I think those are the only things I've written down. If I've missed something, then let me know. Otherwise, if you are inclined, you can move forward with this agreement as modified in accordance with our conversation and authorize the supervisor to proceed.
I'm good with that. I guess I just have one more thing. I'm sorry, Liz. I want to make sure that I believe what Liz is saying is correct, in that I don't want to do a favor for this company. If there's a reason to do this for this person, then we ought to have a generic ability to do this for anybody in the township.
So if I can answer that, Supervisor.
please.
You know me, and you know throughout this entire conversation, I have been on everybody about equal enforcement and my concerns specifically with this agreement. We did look at the ordinance, and the ordinance does allow it. Unfortunately, when the ordinance was drafted, I don't know when it was drafted, but when it did not include specific factors that both the engineer and the DPS director should consider.
Yes.
And so what we've talked about during this whole process is you need to put those factors in there, because without those factors, you're begging unequal enforcement.
Yes.
So I think this was a lesson for everybody, that's the next step when we amend the ordinance, is to add those factors. And I think what was considered here was the limited anticipated use of the grill and of the fryer. And we added in here, some protection in that if that use changes, or if the emissions or release of fog increases, then we could cancel this contract. So we've put as much protections as we can. And I don't even know if the individual, if this business has even seen this. So I don't know whether they're going to be find this acceptable.
My understanding is they know that we're crafting an agreement, and my understanding is that, again, it's very important that the interest of the township's protection of its system is paramount. So
Yes, and that we're fair across the board, and that our ordinance is business friendly to all businesses coming in.
Right.
But so my issue here is, I don't have the right document to vote upon.
Yeah,
So
unfortunately, that's
does
true.
anybody have it that they can forward to me, or can we table this to our next? We have a lot of meetings coming up. We're going to see each other almost every week. Can we table it to get the right?
Yeah, Mr. Roman had his hand up. Do you have something, Mike, or did you?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any rush on this, but I agree with Liz. I would like to table this one. I don't want it written in a way that's going to scare away new restaurants. That we need restaurants here.
Right, we need.
So I'm curious if we checked with Commerce Township to see if they might have a similar agreement.
Nobody has an agreement like this. I'm telling you, when I'm telling you I had to draft this from scratch, I had to draft this from scratch. We tapped the county, we tapped Commerce. In fact, Aaron consulted with both Jay James to make sure there's no issues with this and the county, but nobody has done anything like this before.
Isn't that a little bit surprising that all of a sudden of all the townships, that it needs to exist now, specifically for White Lake, something that doesn't exist anywhere else?
Well, I asked that question to Mr. Lufkin, and Mr. Lufkin said this is not uncommon to like a storm sewer agreement. He said we have storm sewer agreements, maintenance agreements throughout the entire township in different places, and they're not uncommon at all. And he said he didn't feel that it was precedenting setting. So it would just protect the township's interest in that particular pipe for maintenance. That's all this does. And actually, if we're the trendsetters, I think we're setting the right trend, because try to go back and look what's out there. There's communities. I've already seen camera shots of some of the sewers locally. There's one west of the township hall here. I'm not going to get into the name of the facility, a very prominent facility. And then the next plaza over, same problem, that there isn't language in there that says, okay, you've got a facility here. You're mucking up the waters here with grease. We've got no teeth. We got nothing to do.
Rick,
If we have something like this in place, this allows us to go back on them, and they basically volunteer to get into this agreement with us.
Rick,
Yes, Mike.
you
Yes,
know,
Mike.
I'm all for inspections and penalties, issuing penalties for non-compliance. But if this is going to put restaurants on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars of potential repairs, it may just scare them away.
Mike, that's actually not correct. If they don't maintain the system under their sink, they will in fact have that problem. But this is to allow them to operate, and as long as they maintain it, then it'll work just fine. But if they don't maintain it, yes, we have to protect our system then.
Just keep in mind, I just want the board to remember, restaurant businesses.
We lost him.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
More than a resident.
Yeah, you're breaking up, Mike.
It's gone full scarecrow.
Bummer.
Get the kids off the internet.
Oh, he's locked up now.
Yeah, he is. But I'm sure what he was saying is we just have to be careful we don't scare restaurants away.
Yeah,
And
it's not
we don't want to do that.
No, again, I think people might be reading more into this than what it really is.
Yes.
This is basically saying you're asking to not have to follow a certain potential part of this, but there's still allowability within that ordinance to do this. This is just a surety from the individual, whomever it could be, that they will comply and they will maintain the system. Because currently, again, these facilities to the west of us, I've got some great camera shots and there's nothing in place. If there was an agreement like this in place, we could go back to them and say, hey guys, you're not maintaining your separator inside your building and look what it's doing out here.
Yep.
You know, maybe the first time's on us or whatever it is, but this is a problem. It's got to be taken care of. And it gives the township some protection against this new fog thing, which has now become a bigger deal over the last what, 10 years, Mike?
Yes.
Or something. That it's really been recognized. So yes, Liz.
So this is a particular developer that's asking for this now. And I think we're all over the place, but we're actually on the same page that we want to set some perimeters in the ordinance so that if something happens where they are in non-compliance, we have some teeth, we keep saying, but we have some perimeters put in place to enforce that. And I think we all are on the same page that we want to welcome restaurants and be business friendly in White Lake. So this needs a little work in my opinion. So I'd like to make a motion to table it. And I'm very flexible on that table to defer to Mr. Supervisor if you'd like to table that to the next special meeting or the regular monthly board meeting, which I believe is October 20th.
I would like to move it along. There is a request from the individual and a franchisee. They would like to have some kind of a commitment, whether or not they're going to come into the township.
Okay, so I don't feel comfortable on voting on it tonight because I don't have the proper document to vote on. So could we table it to, we meet again on the 23rd, the 29th of September?
29th, yes.
Would that be a workable date?
I mean, if you don't have the information, if you don't have the right one, I can't expect someone to, absorb that material if it's not necessarily done correctly. But Lisa, you look like you want to say something.
No,
Unless somebody has it that they can send to me, but it sounds like I don't have it and trustee Powell doesn't have it.
I'm just,
Um,
I'm just surprised that you don't have it because I sent it to Aaron and said, this is the version to forward unless Rick, you sent them a previous version that you were CC'd on.
The only, whatever copy Trish received, she'd sent out, and I'm not sure of the
Okay.
actual timestamp on that.
I will support Liz's motion to table, but I'd also like to make a comment. I'd love this to go to the restaurant owner and have them look at it as well before we vote.
Do we really care? Because if their alternative is to then put a tank in outside.
Yeah, I think that Aaron, if Aaron were here, he would be concerned that this would then turn into a negotiation when he's agreeing to,
Right.
but obviously it's up to you.
Yeah, I'm sure the restaurant's got an attorney as well. They're gonna want to read this, rather than kill a deal. Maybe they have a small tweak of, something that we would be agreeable to. Once we approve it, it's done. I mean, I guess we could always amend it.
I have no problem with sending it to them, knowing that we have the final say.
Yeah, we have to be looking out for the best interest of the sewer system, period.
Right, so that kind of goes back to, we shouldn't be making this amendment based on just one.
Well, this isn't an amendment, Liz. This is just an agreement at the
Excuse
request.
me, agreement.
Yeah,
I said the wrong word.
That's all right. That's all right. This was a request. This was their request. They came to us. We
Right.
did not go to them. They came to us. So we were trying to be realistic and accommodating, knowing that we want to have businesses and restaurants in our community. So that's where this all started. But
Which I think we all do. We can all agree, right?
but
We're all
but
working
again,
towards that, but
my take at the end of the day is that the township needs to, it needs to be protected. And also the fact that we operate in conjunction with Commerce Township and Oakland County. So, and they're comfortable with what has been put together. So, but again, not having the latest and greatest version in front of you, I completely understand that. So I have to concede if you want a table, I'll concede to that.
so I believe I have a motion and support from Mr. Roman. We just need to choose a date that is agreeable and workable for everybody.
I will say that we could possibly try to bring this back on, I think it's the 23rd.
We do have a 23rd, it's truth and taxation, and then we have a 29th special.
I would like to see if we could bring it back possibly by the 23rd. If for some reason we can't, then we'll shift it to the 29th.
We can easily do that.
So we have a motion to table. We have support to table until the meeting of the 23rd.
Yeah.
Roll call vote.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles.
Yeah.
Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lawley votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Okay.
Table.
Mr. Cowell,
Yes, Ms. Lunn.
I just sent all the board members the final version of the agreement to their White Lake email address.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. I have it. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item H. Rich, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, okay, sorry about that. We appreciate your patience. We have a request for a proposed sale of a couple tankers, a couple of the old buckets here. I think the fire, was one going to Idaho to fight fires or something?
Yeah, it's a small department out in Idaho. Yes.
They could probably use it right about now.
Yeah, I would think so. And then the other department is in Pennsylvania.
Okay. You care to tell us you have the documentation on the price and,
Yes. Yeah, we're asking price on both vehicles. Tanker 3 was 135,000 less the finder's fee for the advertisement, the company that located the buyer. And Tanker 2 was 75,000. Those prices were established based upon the age and mileage and the features on each truck.
okay,
So the Idaho folks want to know tonight. They have a check in the mail for us, and the other one would like to know as soon as possible to make arrangements for pickup also.
okay. And the sale of these tankers puts us roughly 200,000 towards a new one
Correct.
to replace ultimately what we have in stock, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The board did talk about this before. It was voted to authorize the solicitation of sale. We now have a sale, so we need the approval for the sale of the board. Any comments or questions from the board at this time? Okay. See, Mr. Roman, did your hand go up?
No, but I will put it up to make a motion.
Okay, thank you. Please do.
I'll make a motion to sell the two tankers, one for 135,000 and the other for 75,000.
I have a motion for sale, looking for support. I have support from trustee Liz Smith. Roll call vote, please.
Scott Ruggles,
Yeah.
Mike Powell,
To be consistent, I'm going to vote no.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Kowal.
Yes. There you go, chief.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll get these people notified and get this moving. Thank you. Appreciate the support.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item 12, old business. Second reading amendment to the sewer. There we're back in the sewers again. We just can't get out of the gutter. Just so that my colleagues understand this, the little meetings, the few meetings that we have had with Mike Roman, Mike Powell, Aaron, and myself, we have really want to look at things and really go under the macro and try to remedy some of the little things, inconsistencies out there. And then we will look at these things. We'll have a conversation with Lisa. We'll make sure everything is in cohesion with the county and commerce, and bring those recommendations to the board for, I'll call it tweaking or updating, okay, in the best interest of the township and to keep Lisa's blood pressure down. So that is the intention, and we should be proud of ourselves because we actually have done something, which is this one. With that, Mr. Powell, do you have anything to add or say to this? Since it's up your alley?
No, absolutely. You stated it precisely correct. We have some upgrading that we need to do to the existing ordinance. I expect that we need to do this for the future well-being of the township.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Entertaining a motion, please. Mr. Powell.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the amendment to the sewer ordinance as presented.
Chapter 38, Article 4, Section 38-418.
Yes,
I have
thank you.
motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Scott Ruggles. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles.
Yeah.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Kowal.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, well, just kind of like a couple FYIs here before we get into trustee comments. One of them is that we have talked about the revised logo, which really didn't change a whole heck of a lot, and really kind of like has a couple different versions. You should have all received them electronically, and which, think it looks pretty good, you know? But this version is doable on areas where we don't have a conflicting background, which was why the second version was developed at the recommendation of the printing company because of that, the graphics company for that reason. They're both essentially the same. It's just that this one doesn't have a blue line, so that depending on what you have it on, it's how it will show up. So this one looks much better on our, I think on our website. It seems to have some presence and standout, but I think it looks pretty good. So Trish wanted to make sure you had that, and just so the public can see it out there. I think we're on our way to having a nice clean logo. Also the CGI contract, I shouldn't say contract, but agreement that we did last year, and that was the group that did the video story of White Lake, all the little introductions, little living in White Lake and all the different stuff, and went and supported all the businesses, has come back and wants to, after a year, we didn't have any problems. I received nothing but positive feedback from the business owners. And as a matter of fact, right now, the business owners even need more marketing out there because of the current situation. So they are looking to do a 2-year agreement with us. They're going to update some of the videos so that it's fresh. And we'll have that as our kind of like our what's going a little bit about White Lake, and hopefully we'll develop a few things with them and just kind of keep that moving forward. And the third thing is that we would like to do a photo contest for the new website. We have so many great places throughout the township that there are going to be ample places on our website to put some beautiful pictures of the natural beauty of our community. So Trisha's going to work on the dynamics of that, and we'll probably have a first, second, and third prize and some honorable mentions, and we might even get some of the stuff blown up and hang it around the township hall. So and people need to invest. It's their website, so they can invest in it and be a part of it. And I can't think of anything better than, to let the people, they can't get into the nuts and bolts how we operate it, but if they can put something in the background or have it, that they can sit there and say, hey, I did that. That'll be a feather in their cap, and maybe something we rotate annually, and we could have some fun with it. So that's going on with that. Moving on to trustee comments. Andrea?
Thank you. Just quickly, I want to just remind everyone that September 26th from 9 to 1 is the No Has at the Kohl's parking lot. Great event. I know we were all home cleaning during the executive order, so I expect a great, amazing, fantastic turnout.
When is that, Andrea?
September 26th. It's a Saturday from 9 to 1, Kohl's parking lot. And the list of the qualifying items are excuse me, on the Facebook page, White Lake Township Facebook page. And also, this coming up Saturday is the Comedy Club hosted by the Historical Society. They sold advance tickets to keep under the executive orders, and they were sold out as of today. It will be there should be no COVID spread at the Fish Farm that day, because everyone's being 6-foot distancing, wearing masks, bringing their own food. It should be a funny.
It's going to be like Hollywood Square, right?
Yeah, I was told that they're going to have circles on the ground, on the grass, to keep everyone, so like groups of 2, to keep us all COVID friendly.
How many people, Andrew?
My final comment is be safe and be healthy.
How many people do they elect? How many tickets they sell?
They sold 100. It sold out today.
Okay. Liz.
Okay, all right, good evening. Thank you. So I'll give a quick library update. The library has now resumed their regular hours, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10, and Friday and Saturday, 10 to 5. It's also library card sign up month. So be sure to stop in and get a library card if you don't already have one. And you can use it for all kinds of things. They have media, not just books. Also, it's a really fun thing you can do in Michigan with your library card. It's called Michigan Activity Pass.info, and you can use your library card for a free rec pass somewhere through the state, a cultural pass, a state park, and we have state parks in White Lake. You can go to Sleeping Bear Dunes. So your library card can be used for other things. So I encourage you to sign up and get a library card. If it's free to get one if you don't have one yet. And then I'd also like to commend our fire department for shining light on Suicide Prevention Month. I want to make sure that our community really hears me, that there is absolutely no stigma in needing help with mental health. We are all here to help you. Please reach out. You can reach out to me at absolutely no judgment. You can reach out to many wonderful people in our community. I want to take a second and show you the shirt I'm wearing. It's for the fire department. You can order one for $10. And this is our Suicide Prevention Month. I'm gonna turn around so you can see it. Can we see it? Yep. Okay. So you can order these through the fire department to support their cause to raise awareness for fire department suicide prevention. And I also want to give you a couple numbers that you can call if you need somebody to talk to. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so there is first responder specific safe call now. It's 1-206-495-3020. And that is for law enforcement, public safety professionals, mental health care providers that are familiar with your line of work. It's confidential and it's a 24-hour crisis referral hotline. There's also a program called Share the Load. It's a program run by National Volunteer Fire Council. There's another program, National Helpline for USA National Suicide Prevention. And so we did also enter our resolution this evening. Thank you, board, for supporting that. That's a suicide hotline for first responders as well. So please reach out. You are loved, cared about. You are there when we need you. So we want to be there when you need us. So please make sure that you reach out to somebody if you feel the need. And there's absolutely no stigma in asking. We all need a helping hand once in a while in life. I want to thank our first responders as we celebrated, well, excuse me, not celebrated, honored 9/11 this past week. I want to, of course, wish all of our students and parents a successful start to the school year journey. And I want to remind everybody that there was a federal change in the food system. So if you are of school age child, 26 or under, no questions asked, no name is needed to be provided, that free lunch is available at all school districts, all 5 school districts in White Lake Township. You don't have to sign up. It's available. So just check your website of your local school district, and there's breakfast and lunch available to children in your home under the age of 18 or 26 if they happen to have a disability. I want to invite my colleagues to remember to wear pink next board meeting in October for breast cancer awareness, and it's also Pit Bull Awareness Month. So please join me in wearing pink in October. And I'll end by continued prayers for our public safety workers and essential workers, and prayers for our community to stay healthy and safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Scott?
Yeah, hi, thanks. So the planning commission met last Tuesday. And the only thing on the agenda was to take a look at allowing the Four Corners development to, as I would phrase it, deviate from the plan in place and change the rooftop design that they had. And the planning commission voted 4-3 to go ahead and allow them to leave what they had already constructed on top of the building. So for better or for worse, it's going to remain. I think they're going to paint some wood up there, and hopefully it looks great. So that was the meeting last week. Our meeting on the 17th has been canceled, and I think we do have one October 1st. So, in other news, I think, I hope most of you are aware that each year, the Huron Valley Options Club puts on they call it the Great Pumpkin Hunt, which takes place in Indian Springs Metro Park. Unfortunately, I got a call from Dick Russell, who puts a lot of time and effort into it, that they had voted to not do that this year. One being that Metro Park was a little bit uneasy about having so many people attend it, and two, the Optimist Club hasn't had a lot of fundraisers this year to be able to pay for it. So I usually supply the pumpkins. I have for the last 5 years. So I offered to donate the pumpkins. Maybe then they would be willing to have the event. But they're still a little apprehensive because of the Metro Park having some reservations about hosting. So I offered to host the event just down the street, and I'm waiting to hear back. So hopefully the people that have really dedicated to donating their time to run the event will go ahead and say yes and bring it down, and we'll donate the pumpkins to kids. Because I hate to see just one more event be taken from them, just one more activity that the kids can't participate in. I think we can safely do it. Once I hear, I'll let you know. So hopefully there'll be a great pumpkin hunt in White Lake this fall. So thanks.
Thank you. The Great Pumpkin Patch rises. Okay. Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We had a zoning board of appeals meeting last Thursday. The ZBA denied a request for a property owner to build about a 16-foot high structure about 16 feet off of the water on White Lake. We didn't feel that that was a necessary structure, and it was self-imposed. We also denied the ability of a property owner to put a second story on a home that was only 1.2 feet off the property line. That just deviated from the ordinance more than what the ZBA felt was proper. And we have 6 items on the agenda for next Thursday night. And so we're getting a lot of requests to have modifications of the ordinance for building that is going on by our residents. Also wanted to point out and thank the board that I think the joint meeting with the CCDC group went extremely well last month. And I'm really looking forward to this next month as well, the 29th. I think it was a very good idea to have that joint meeting because there was a great deal to share with you as a board. And quite frankly, there's still a great deal more to share with you as a board. So I thank you for your patience and wanting to meet with us. And that's it, Mr. Kowal.
Thank you. Mr. Roman.
Thanks, Rick. First, I want to thank all of the White Lake Township residents that paid their summer tax bills. Those were due September 14th. We had a record number of internet electronic payments made online. And we've collected approximately 93% of what we billed out, which is an all-time best at this point in the year. I got to thank my staff, Lisa, Amy, Riva. You guys did a terrific job working with our residents. I can't tell you how many bad checks we got in the mail. My team were able to somehow contact the majority of these people to get those remedied by the 14th. So thanks, guys. Terrific job. I also want to thank Kathy Gordonier and Carol Kehoe, who have been manning our door. What a terrific job you guys have done, making sure everyone had masks, making sure people did not have COVID symptoms. And you also limited the number of people in the building. And I got to tell you guys, we approached 300 visitors a day just at my desk this last week. 300 per day. It was really crazy. What else? Just to let the board know, early October, we will be doing in-house training to take credit cards online as well as at counters. So that is moving along as well. And that's all I had, Rick.
Thank you. Mr. Lilly.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. We'll be doing ballot testing on the 24th and also a public accuracy test at 4:30 if anybody would like to attend that. We're going to be doing probably 4 precincts this year for our AV counting board.
Oh.
Instead of the normal 2. We're really busy in the office with applications and ballots will be going out shortly. Also, I want to indicate to the board that the Senate today evidently passed a bill that may allow the opening of ballots the day before election day. And I guess that's on the way to the House to be passed. So we're waiting for some further direction of what's going to happen. I don't know whether that's going to work good for us or not, but we'll see what happens at this point. And again, I want to thank my staff. I know we're so busy with this election as last time that they do a terrific job. So that's on the way to the House. That's all I have, Rick.
Okay, great. Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. Well, everyone, we will be having our budget, preliminary budget meeting. I'm not asking anyone to pass the budget, and you'll hopefully have those very shortly so you can start to review them. And then we may try to do that at the regular October meeting, which would be nice. I'd like to let you all know that we were voted 19th on a list of the best cities for top fitness. And there's a group out there that does this, and it's now been shifted onto our website. You can find it. So White Lake was one of number 19 on this list. I'm not sure how extensive the list was. It was regional or statewide, but it was nice to see some recognition, knowing that we have some people moving around and not just eating donuts like Mike Powell. So, so you got to keep moving, and it's good. And speaking of moving, we're moving into the 21st century with the implementation, as Mike said, with the payments online and that system. I appreciate Mike embracing that and moving forward with that as a service and a convenience to our residents. And it's just bizarre that the timing of that all came together, and who knew COVID was going to creep on us when it did. So we're moving in the right direction. The website is coming along. The group that's been working on that is making some good strides. I am not sure of the launch date yet, but Tricia will notify everyone ahead of time, give you plenty of heads up, let you know, and hopefully we'll get that worked out. Yeah, big shout out to Kathy and Carol. We had our senior advisory council meeting on Monday, and we're spread out around the building and in compliance. And they, they're really trying to make sure that the folks out there know that we're here, and that if they have issues or problems, that we'll help remedy them. And they're told a few different things that had happened. So just trying to help people. So it's a good thing that we're still here trying to do what we can do. And the fact that they're here helping keep all of us safe and keep our residents safe and keeping us in compliance with the executive order. That's a big thing. So again, the 26th from 9 to 1, get on the website, look on Facebook. No latex paint. Latex paint you can get rid of yourself. Pour kitty litter in it, let it dry in the garage for about a week, and you can put it in the trash. It is 100% disposable that way, but that's the proper way. That's right from GFL. Kitty litter, dry out, and put it on. Do not put it out in a liquid form, okay? So we'll get the budget information. Again, like I said, I appreciate everybody's input on the fog thing. Again, it's just another little avenue we'll need to look at and talk about. And I'm totally open for that. And I did appreciate the fact that the station number 1 had the memorabilia up, in a sense, up against the door for 9/11, and it caught a lot of people's attention. And I asked the guys to put a light on it in the evening so people would see it and understand and not forget. So with that, I say to all my board members and all the folks out there, good night. God bless. Thank you so much for all of your help. We have a great board. I appreciate every one of you. working with you and to continue working with you. And I am looking to make a motion to adjourn. Looking for support.
Support that. Andrea will
I-
support.
I have support from Liz Smith. You weren't fast enough, Andrea.
That's good.
And roll call vote.
Scott Ruggles,
Yeah.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mike Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes, and good night.
Good night, you
Good
guys.
night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Rob.
Good night.